Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and in today's crochet along we are going to be making Tia the Triceratops. This is going to be a two-part video. Part 1 is going to be creating the head and the body. Part 2 is going to be assembling the head and the body, creating the belly plate, the tail, the arms, and the legs. So let's gather some supplies and we will jump into the pattern. So for today's project, I decided to go with some purple. So this is just Parfait Chunky, and it is in the color Dusty Mauve. And then I also just have my baby Snuggle in, I'm pretty sure this is the color Rabbit. We are also going to be needing our crochet hooks. I just have my Frills crochet hook 5.5, and then I also like to have a smaller hook on hand. This is just a 3.75 millimeter hook, and this is just for like weaving in ends and those kind of things. We'll also need a stitch marker, a darning needle, some scissors, fabric pins. We'll need some safety eyes unless you're embroidering. These are 12 millimeter safety eyes, are just plain black. We'll need some fiber fill, and then we'll also need a little bit of black yarn and a little bit of white yarn for detailing of the face. So once we have all of those supplies collected, we can jump into the pattern. All right, to start off, we are going to grab our color A yarn. So for me, that's going to be my purple, and we are going to start with the head. So to begin, we're going to make a magic ring. And you should know how to do a magic ring, and as well as your single crochets. This yarn it already didn't want to pull for me. I find the Parfait Chunky yarn the worst for the fibers coming off of the strand, but they do have beautiful colors. So once we have our magic ring, we're going to place 6 single crochets inside the ring. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to pull this a little. 4, 5, 6. I like to pull my ring halfway with chenille yarn because I find that I have a higher chance of it pulling if I do it halfway instead of leaving it till I'm completely finished. So for round 2, we're going to do an increase round. So that is 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a stitch count of 12. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. For round 3, we're going to do single crochet and an increase. So 2 single crochets in 1. And we're going to repeat that a total of 6 times for a stitch count of 18. All right. Now for rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, we're going to do single crochet 18. So that's 1 single crochet in each stitch around for the next 4 rounds, 4 through 7. So I will complete these rounds off camera and I will meet you back at the end of round 7. All right, so this is what we're looking like up to round 7. So for round 8, we're going to do the combination single crochet 2, 1, 2, and an increase stitch. We'll repeat that 6 times for a stitch count of 24. All right, now moving on to round 9, we're just going to do single crochet 24. So one single crochet in each stitch around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now for round 10, we're going to do the combination single crochet 3. So 1, 2, 3, and an increase. And again, we're going to repeat this 6 times for a stitch count of 30 at the end of this round. All right, so for rows 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, so 5 rounds, we are going to do single crochet 30. So one single crochet in each stitch around for rounds 11 through 15. So I'm going to complete these rounds off camera and then I will meet you back here for the next step. All right, so this is what we're looking like at the end of round 15. Now for round 16, we're going to start, excuse me, we're going to start decreasing down. So for round 16, we're going to do the combination single crochet 3, 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. I like to do invisible decreases, so grab the front loop and the front loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So you just turned 2 stitches into 1. So we're going to repeat that combo of single crochet 3, 3, and a decrease, a total of 6 times, and you should have 24 stitches again at the end of this round. Here we go. All right, so now before we continue on, we are going to stuff our head and place the eyes. Now, I like to stuff my head first and then place the eyes afterwards. I just find, personally, I like to know exactly what the shape of the face is going to be before I put the eyes on, because the shaping, or the fiber fill does change the shape. And a few times I've put eyes on before and then I stuffed it and I didn't like it, and then you're kind of stuck. So I stuff it, I place my eyes, I can remove my stuffing when I actually do the placement of the eyes. I just have it here for when I'm figuring out where on the face I want them to sit. So I'm just sweeping out my stuffing to the outsides and the ends and refilling the center to make sure that everything is equally filled. Now I'm going to grab my eyes, and for this project I'm just going to find a spot on the head that I think looks the best. There is no front or back to this pattern for the head, so usually I'm going to have my changing colors here, like my my row counter on the back of like somewhere on the back. And then I just want to find the spot where I feel like it looks the best. And I'm thinking like right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to place our eyes on rounds 9 and 10. So I'm just going to count back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 9 and 10. I'm just going to roughly place an eye there and an eye there so I don't lose it. And then we want about 5 to 6 stitches in between. So I'm just going to put them there. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remembering when we are placing our eyes that we are going to be bringing them in with our face shaping. So, you know, if they look a little bit far apart now, that's okay. It's better than them being too close together and then bringing them in and then they look strange. So I always say err on the side of caution. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And have them a little bit further apart so that when you bring them in, they look a little bit more natural. So I think that that's probably good. Now I'm going to take my stuffing out. I'm going to place the backings on. Go. And I just like to extra secure my backings. You don't have to do this, but I just like to have it extra secured. So I just there we go. And then I can restuff my head. I know that seems like you're double stuffing. It seems like more work, but personally, that's what works for me. You don't have to do it that way, but that's what I prefer to do. So I'm just going to restuff my head now. Now moving on to round 17, we are going to do the combination single crochet 2 and a decrease. I'm going to repeat that 6 times again, and our stitch count should go down to 18. 1, 2, decrease. All right, for round 18, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and a decrease. And again, we're repeating this 6 times for a stitch count of 12. All right, now before we enter our final round here, I'm just going to finish stuffing and just make sure that this back of the head here is stuffed to where we want it. You don't want to overstuff. You still want it to be, I'm just going to take a little bit out actually. Moving on to the final round of the head, we're just going to do 6 decrease stitches. And this is going to bring us down to 6 stitches. Here we go. I'm just going to take my stitch marker out and I'm just going to place a slip stitch here. Just going to cut my yarn and pull that through. Here we go. Now I'm just going to take that smaller hook and I'm just going to go around and grab the front loop of each stitch here around of all 6 stitches, and then I'm just going to pull that, and that's going to close up my center there. And then lastly, just like to place a little knot just right here for extra security. And then I'm just going to grab that and weave it in. All right, and that is the first part of our head complete. Next up, we're going to shape our eyes. So I just have my darning needle with my black yarn. Doesn't have to be black, whatever color you want. So to start, we're going to take our needle and we're going to insert it at the top of the eye, as close to the eye as possible. Next, I'm going to push that over to the other eye in the same spot. And I'm just going to pull that a little bit so that there's 2 tails on either side. Next, with the one that still has your darning needle on this eye, I'm just going to put it here on the bottom of the eye, again as close to the eye as I can get it. And then I'm going to push it down to the underneath of the body, because we are going to be attaching a body here, so no one's going to see this. Now this strand of yarn is going to be on the inside of the eye, like that. And we're going to repeat that on the other side again. And again, I'm going to push this down. Now, because we are sewing a body on here, no one's going to see this. I'm going to offset my stitches here so that they're not in the same stitch. That will secure it a little bit better, and because it will be hidden, I think it's okay. Basically, all you're going to do is just pull this, and you're going to notice your eyes will go in. See how that happens? Now, you just want it a little bit. We're just really creating this nose piece here. So I don't want it to be too far in. We're just adding a little bit of definition. And once you're happy with that, we can just tie a knot here. And then we'll just cut our yarn ends here and weave them in. Weave these in. Go. All right. And there is our face shaping completed. All right, so next we're going to just do a little bit of eye detailing. So I'm just going to take my white yarn with my darning needle, and from the side of the head here, I'm just going to insert it back into that same spot on the bottom of the eye that we went into with our black yarn. And then I'm going to go back into the top as well. And I'm going to do that on the other side as well, the exact same. Now these strands are going to sit on the outside of the eye instead of the inside. Like that. And we'll just repeat that, and I'm just going to push this all the way over to where I started. Go. And I'm just going to, you don't want to pull these too tight because you want to be able to see them. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to tie a knot here, but not too tight because I don't want it to disappear. Just going to cut my yarn and weave in my ends. All right, next we're going to work on the headpiece. So to start off, we are going to create a guide for ourselves. This piece of yarn is going to be coming out. It's not staying in. It's really just for us so that we make sure we stay straight. Now, our headpiece, we're going to be crocheting directly into round 14 of the head. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our darning needle and just some scrap yarn, and we're going to count back to round 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And we want to go into the back of round 14 because we want to crochet into this round. So I'm just going to use the back and knowing that I'm going to be crocheting in front, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to insert this here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the head on round 14, and I'm just going to place this marker here. Now there is a point here where we're not going to be still on round 14, if that makes sense, because of how the color changing, like how the rounds work. So like for instance, if you look, this round is going to continue and it's going to end up right here at the back, one row behind. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is we want to make sure that the front of the head is what is the most symmetrical. So we're going to go down around to around 14 all the way in the front on the head, on the top of the head. And then in the back, where our body's going to be, that can be where our color changes. Like where our, sorry, not our color change, but where this angle is sitting, it's just going to look a little bit off because of how the rounds work, and we don't want that sitting in the front of the head because everyone will see it. This area here is going to be covered by the body, so no one's going to see this. So we just want to make sure that we're happy with that. I'm just going to recount 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is the round we're going to be working into. All right, so now that we have our marker done, we are going to start off here with our color A yarn, and we're just going to make a slip stitch. And I'm going to start over here where our drop down is. And what we're going to do is we're going to be working directly into round 14. I'm going to insert my hook here, and I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to create a single crochet. And I'm also using my 3.75 millimeter hook, sorry. We want to just size down for this first round so that we can get into our stitches. Now, round 14 of the head has 30 stitches, and so we should have 30 stitches in this first round. So we just worked into the first one, and you can see the stitches because they have these little like V's. See the 2 lines right there? That's 1 stitch. There's 1 stitch. There's 1 stitch. So you want to work into those. You want to grab those stitches like that, and you want to stay really shallow towards you because you don't want to grab a bunch of stuffing. So we're just going to really take our time with this round because it's the hardest round, and we're just going to work our way, making sure we're staying in line with that stitch marker that we used here so that we're staying on round 14. And we just want to make sure we're not skipping any stitches, and we should have 30 stitches, 30 single crochets at the end of round 1 of our head piece. So I'm going to work my way around the head, and I will meet you back here at the end. All right, so this is what we're looking like. This is the brim of our head piece here. This is that first round I just worked into directly into the head. Now we can remove this marker that we placed because we don't need it anymore. And I'm also switching back to my 5.5 millimeter hook now that we're going to be working directly into the stitches and not into the head. So this is where I'm at right now. And moving forward for round 2 of our head here, we're going to do the combination single crochet 4 and an increase. And I am going to place a stitch marker here. So single crochet 4. I'm just going to pull that first stitch a little tight to close up that hole. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to do an increase stitch, and we're going to repeat this a total of 6 times, and we should have a stitch count of 36 at the end of round 2. 3, 4, and an increase all the way around. All right, moving on to round 3, we're going to do the combination single crochet 5 and an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase, and we'll repeat this again 6 times for a stitch count of 42. I'm going to complete this round off camera and I'll meet you back here for round 4. All right, now moving on to round 4, we're going to do the combination single crochet 6 and an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and an increase. And we'll repeat this 6 times for a stitch count of 48 at the end of this round. Now moving on to round 5, we're going to do the combination single crochet 7 and an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, increase. We're going to repeat this 6 times and our stitch count should be 54 at the end of this round. Now I'm going to complete this round off camera and I'll meet you back here for the next round. All right, now moving on. For round 6, we're going to do the combination single crochet 8 and an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and an increase. And again, we're going to repeat this a total of 6 times, and our stitch count should be 60 at the end of this round. I'm again going to complete this off camera, and I will meet you back here for the next round. All right, so this is what we're looking like at the end of round 6. So now what we're going to do is we're going to switch our color. So I'm just going to take out the last stitch just so that we're at our 2 loops for our last single crochet with the purple yarn. And I'm going to grab my gray yarn, or whatever yarn you're using for the details of your Triceratops. You're going to grab that yarn, you're just going to grab it on your hook, and you're going to finish off that single crochet with that new color. I just like to make a little knot here just to secure that. And then I'm just going to cut my purple yarn. Now we're going to work into the final round of this head piece here. What we're going to do is we're going to do the combination single crochet 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Next we're going to do 3 double crochets in 1 stitch. So yarn over, there's 1 double crochet, back into the same stitch, 2 double crochets, back into the same stitch for 3 double crochets. Then we're going to repeat that. Single crochet 9, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 3 double crochets. Again, we're going to repeat this a total of 6 times, and our stitch count should be 72 at the end of round 7. So I'm going to complete this last round off camera, and then I will meet you back here for the next step. All right, so this is what we're looking like All I'm going to do to finish this off here is I'm going to just place a slip stitch into this first stitch of our round to kind of finish that off. And I'm just going to cut my yarn and pull that through. The other things to do would be to weave in our yarn ends here. And I will do that off camera. I don't want to bore you. So weave in your yarn tails there on the edge of your headpiece here. And then next we're going to work on the horns. All right, next we are going to work on the horns. So we're going to start off with the head horns first. And for the head horns, we are going to start off with a magic ring. And inside our magic ring, we're going to place 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to close that up. Just going to place a stitch marker. Moving on for round 2, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and an increase, and we're going to repeat that 2 times, and your stitch count should be 6. Single crochet and an increase, just like that. Now moving on for rounds 3, 4, and 5, so 3 rounds, we're just going to do single crochet 6. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around for the next 3 rounds. I will complete these off camera and I'll meet you back here at the end of that. All right, so this is where we are at the end of round 5. Now this is the final round, so I'm just going to slip stitch to the next stitch here. And I'm going to cut a tail about 10 to 12 inches. I always like to cut a little bit longer personally, just so I'd rather have too much than not enough. So I always cut my tails long. Now I just stuffed this with the yarn tail, but we are going to add a little bit of stuffing as well. So I'm just going to take, it really does not need a lot, and because I stuffed with the yarn tail, it basically needs nothing, but I'm just going to put a little bit in there just to fill kind of the top area a little bit more. That should be good. So we're going to need 2 of these, so go back and make 1 more of these, and then we will meet back to sew them on the head. All right, so I have made my 2 horns here, and I'm going to grab my head because we are going to sew these on. So I'm going to just grab some fabric pins here. I like to use fabric pins for these smaller pieces. When I'm sewing on bigger pieces, sometimes I'll use a knitting needle, but for this smaller piece, I'm just going to use fabric pins. Now the horns are going to sit directly against our headpiece here on the head, and we are going to have about 5 to 6 stitches in between. Now you want it centered on the eyes. Depending on where you started your project, your spikes may be centered, they may not be. So mine is not centered on my head, so I'm going to use my eyes as my guide to make sure that I'm staying straight and centered here. So I'm thinking I'm going to stick there, so I'm just going to place 1 in here first, and I'm just using my fabric pins here, and then the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in line with the head, with the eyes. There we go. And I always like to take extra time with this stuff because this yarn is really not forgiving with sewing on. if you sew it on wrong and you take it all out, sometimes the yarn pills so badly that you can't sew it back and you have to add in a separate strand. So I always like to just get it right the first time. So I'm just going to double check, make sure I'm right up against the back here, and when I'm happy with that, I'm going to start sewing this on with my darning needle. All right, once that's sewn on, all I like to do is just grab a little bit of yarn again here and make a knot. And then I'm just going to push my needle down to, again, where the head and body are going to meet, to pull through my yarn there. And there is one horn attached. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach the other horn the exact same way, and I will meet you back here for the next step. All right, so I've attached both horns and I just have my yarn tails at the bottom here, and I just like to tie these guys together. And I don't really know how much this like extra secures it, but it always makes me feel a little bit better. And then I'm just going to cut my excess yarn, get my smaller hook here, and I'm just going to weave these ends in. Go. And there are our horns attached. All right, now we are going to work up the nose horn, and there's only going to be one of these. So to start off, we're just going to place a magic ring, and inside our magic ring, we're going to make 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. For round 2, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1, single crochet, and an increase. Again, we're going to repeat this 2 times for a stitch count of 6. Next, for rounds 3 and 4, so 2 rounds, we're going to do single crochet 6. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I'm just going to pull my stitch marker out. I'm going to place my slip stitch right next door in that next stitch over. And I'm going to cut my tail here for sewing. And I'll just pull that through. I'm also just going to cut my, actually what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to stuff the horn here with my yarn tail. And if there's excess, I will just cut it. I think I could just put it all in there. If you still have a tiny bit of room, you could put some fiber fill in here as well. Once we have completed that, we will grab our head, and I'm just going to bring us out a little bit here, and we'll sew that on our head. Okay, so we are going to attach our nose horn on rounds 3 to 5. So 1, 2, so 3 is right here. It's going to go centered right in between the eyes. So I'm just going to roughly place here some pins. Here we go. And I'm just going to take a look here and make sure that it is centered. It's on rows 3 to 5. So I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to take my darning needle here and I'm going to sew this on. All right. And then I'm just going to again make a knot similar as to how I did with the other horns. And I'm just going to stick this down into the body, or into the bottom of the head, sorry. There we go. And we have our horns attached and our head is all done. We are ready to move on to the body. All right, now moving on to the body, we are going to go back to our color A yarn. So for me, that's my purple. And again, we're starting off with a magic ring. And inside the magic ring, we're going to place 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. Just pull a little bit just to make sure. See, this isn't going to pull, so I'm going to have to start over. That's why I like to pre-pull, because if it's not going to pull at 3 stitches, it's not going to pull at 6 stitches. So that's just kind of my fail-safe to not waste my time. This yarn isn't very forgiving. So sorry, 6 single crochets. 2, 3. Hopefully we're a little bit, yep. And we'll finish that. 4, 5, and 6. Perfect. And I'm just going to place my stitch marker here. Now for round 2 of the body, we're going to do an increase round. So 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So 1 right back into that same stitch, 2, 3, 4, and we should have 12 stitches at the end of this round. All right, for round 3, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and an increase. We'll repeat this 6 times for a stitch count of 18. All right, for round 4, we're going to do single crochet 18. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Moving on to round 5, we're going to do the combination single crochet 2 and an increase. And we're going to repeat this 6 times for a stitch count of 24. Increase. I will complete this off camera and I'll meet you back here for the next round. All right, for round 6, we are going to do single crochet 24. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. All right, for round 7, we're going to do the combination single crochet 3 and increase. Increase. And we'll repeat this 6 times. 1, 2, 3, increase. And your stitch count should be 30. 1, 2, 3, increase. All right, moving on to round 8, we're going to do single crochet 30. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Moving on to round 9, we're going to do the combination single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase stitch. And again, we're going to repeat this 6 times for a stitch count of 36. 2, 3, 4, increase. All right. Now moving on for rounds 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, so 7 rounds, we're going to do single crochet 36. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around for the next 7 rounds. Now I'm going to complete these rounds off camera, and I will meet you back here at the end of round 16. All right, this is what we're looking like at the end of round 16. Now moving forward, we're going to start decreasing down. So for round 17, we're going to do the combination single crochet 4, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease. Same decrease technique as we used in the head, our invisible decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease. And we will repeat this again a total of 6 times, and our stitch count should be 30 at the end of round 17. For round 18, we're going to do the combination single crochet 3 in a decrease. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. And we'll repeat this 6 times as well. 2, 3, decrease. And we should be down to 24 stitches at the end of round 18. All right, so at this point, we are just going to pause and we're going to stuff our body. So I'm just going to grab some fiber fill and I'm going to start stuffing. Now I always like to kind of sweep my stuffing out, kind of like I did for the head, just to make sure that everything is being stuffed equally. And we will stuff again, so this doesn't have to be like the final stuffing, we're just kind of getting the base stuffing done here. There we go. Once you are done stuffing, we will move on. And for round 19, we're going to do the combination single crochet 2, 1, 2, decrease. Repeat that 6 times for a stitch count of 18. 1, 2, decrease. I will finish this round off camera and I'll meet you back here for round 20. All right, for round 20, we are going to do the combination single crochet 1, and a decrease. We're going to repeat that 6 times as well. I'm sure you see a pattern here. And we should have 12 stitches at the end of this round. All right, now we're just going to stuff again. This will kind of be our final stuffing, so just make sure you have enough stuffing in there. You want it to be, obviously keep its shape, but you still want it to be like, you know, plushy. So whatever that is for you. So just stuff until you're happy. And then our final round, which is round 21, we are going to be doing a full decrease round. So 6 decrease stitches for a final stitch count of 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'll remove my stitch marker, and I'm just going to place my slip stitch into that next stitch there. We don't need really a long tail for this guy. And I'm just going to pull that through. Next, I'm just going to take my smaller hook, my 3.75, and I just like to go under and grab the front loop of each stitch of each of the last 6 stitches and pull our yarn tail all the way through. And this is just going to gather those stitches and close up this hole here. And I like to kind of pull as I go. So what you can see here that it's already basically disappeared, like that. And then as one last thing, I just like to make a knot. Just again for some extra security. And then I'm just going to take my hook here and weave in my ends. And there is my body. Next, we will sew this onto the head. And that is the end of part 1. Now head over to part 2 to assemble the head and the body, create the belly plate, the tail, the arms, and the legs.